And that's a truth you'll learn through growth. We often confuse time with loyalty and presence with depth. In our minds, 10 years of shared laughter, tears, and inside jokes must mean something solid, something unshakable. After all, who stays in your life for a decade without meaning it, right? But here's the thing, not everyone who walks beside you is truly walking with you. Some are just walking near you aligned for a while, but not connected in the way that really matters. The difference is subtle at first, and often it's invisible until your perspective shifts. Growth changes everything. As you grow emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you begin to notice the difference between shared history and shared values, between someone who knows your story and someone who honors it, between those who are comfortable with who you used to be and those who support who you are becoming. It's painful at first realizing that time alone doesn't guarantee depth. That loyalty can be habitual, not heartfelt. That some relationships are held together more by routine than by real resonance, but with growth comes clarity. You start to understand that outgrowing people doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't erase the good memories or deny the love that was once real. It simply means you're no longer willing to shrink yourself to fit into a version of your life that you've outlived. And that's a powerful, bittersweet truth. Because as you let go of what no longer fits, you make space for what does. For relationships that nourish your becoming. For connections rooted not just in history, but in alignment. For people who see you now and still choose to stay not out of habit, but out of intention. And that is the kind of love that grows with you. Time isn't proof of loyalty. It's easy to look at long friendships and assume permanence. You think, we've known each other since high school, of course, they'll always be around. You remember the sleepovers, the shared heartbreaks, the countless birthdays and late night calls. That kind of history feels sacred, unshakable. But the truth is, the length of time someone has been in your life doesn't necessarily equate to the depth of their support or the sincerity of their presence. Some people stay out of habit, not out of love. They stay because it's familiar, not because it's fulfilling. Because the version of you that existed back then made them feel comfortable. You laughed at the same things. You carried the same wounds. You played the same roles. And in that version of you, they knew where they fit, who they were, what they meant. But the moment you begin to evolve, when you start setting boundaries, speaking your truth, chasing dreams that go beyond the life you once accepted, something shifts. You're no longer who you were, and they can feel it. The dynamics that once felt effortless start to feel off balance. You may notice resistance, subtle sarcasm, or a strange distance forming where warmth once lived. Because here's the thing. Growth reveals the conditional nature of certain relationships. Some people only love you as long as you stay small. As long as you don't outgrow the shared wounds or question the norms you once bonded over. As long as you don't shine too brightly or ask for too much. The moment your healing challenges their comfort, the relationship begins to crack, not always loudly, but quietly, almost imperceptibly. A slow retreat, a shift in tone. A silence that says more than words ever could, and this hurts. It hurts because you didn't change out of pride or rebellion, you changed out of necessity. You grew because staying the same was slowly breaking you. But in doing so, you start to realize that not everyone can or wants to grow with you. You begin to see who claps when you win and who looks away. Who celebrates your boundaries and who punishes you for them. Who leans in with curiosity as you evolve, and who pulls away in discomfort. It's heartbreaking, but it's also liberating. Because as you become more aligned with your truth, your peace, your purpose, you start to recognize that longevity is not loyalty. And shared history is not the same as shared growth. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for them is to acknowledge the truth that not all friendships are meant to last forever. Some are meant to teach you something about who you were. Others to show you what you no longer need. And in that space of clarity, you create room. Room for relationships built not on nostalgia, but on presence. Not on obligation, but on resonance. Connections where you don't have to shrink, apologize, or explain your evolution because they see you, respect you, and are evolving too. And that kind of connection, that's not just comforting. That's rare and worth the wait. Growth exposes hidden truths. Personal growth is a mirror. It doesn't just show you who you're becoming, it reflects who around you is truly aligned with that becoming. As you evolve, step into new versions of yourself and begin to heal, rise, and dream bigger. You'll start to see your relationships shift in quiet but undeniable ways. Some shifts are beautiful. Others are heartbreakingly clarifying. Some friends will celebrate your glow up wholeheartedly. They'll clap the loudest when you win. They'll be the ones texting you congratulations at midnight after your big milestone, sending you job leads, or simply saying, "I see how far you've come and I'm proud of you." Even if your journey leads you in a direction that no longer involves seeing each other every day, they'll love you enough to let you grow without guilt. Because real friendship isn't threatened by distance. It's strengthened by depth. But not everyone will respond that way. Some will grow quiet, not out of malice, but out of discomfort. Your progress, your healing, ambition, or clarity shines a light on the places they may still feel stuck. And instead of being inspired by your growth, they feel exposed by it. Your courage becomes a mirror they're not ready to look into. And suddenly, your wins don't feel welcome in the room anymore. You'll sense it in the shift of energy, in how they no longer ask about your goals or your joy, in how your success is met not with celebration, but with silence, sarcasm, or shallow praise, in how the conversations that once uplifted you now leave you feeling self-conscious, emotionally drained, or weirdly guilty. You'll start to question yourself. You'll wonder if you're being too sensitive, too ambitious, too different. And worst of all, you might start shrinking, making your joy smaller. Your voice quieter, your presence less visible, just to keep the peace. But you shouldn't. Because here's the truth. You're not doing anything wrong by growing. You're not selfish for healing. You're not disloyal for dreaming beyond the boundaries you once shared. In fact, choosing to grow in a world that constantly asks you to stay the same is an act of quiet bravery. Yes, it's painful when you realize some people love the unhealed version of you more than the whole one. When your glow up exposes the conditional love you never noticed before. When your joy becomes something you feel you need to apologize for. But the pain is not the enemy, it's the messenger. It's showing you what's real. It's guiding you to deeper alignment. To spaces where you don't have to dilute your spirit to be accepted. To friendships where growth isn't a threat, it's a shared value. So don't let guilt trick you into going backwards. Don't dim your light to soothe someone else's shadow. You are allowed to expand, to shift, to choose yourself even when it means being misunderstood. Not everyone who's started the journey with you is meant to finish it beside you, and that's okay. Because growth may create distance, but it also creates clarity. And in that clarity, you'll find the people who are never afraid of your light. The ones who don't just tolerate your evolution, but evolve with you. Keep going. Longevity doesn't guarantee depth. You can know someone for 10 years and still not be known by them. You can share vacations, birthday toasts, late night calls, inside jokes, and entire chapters of your life story. And yet, when it truly matters, feel completely unseen and emotionally alone in their presence. Because real connection isn't about the volume of time. It's about the quality of presence. It's about being witnessed, not just watched, understood, not just tolerated, loved in your evolution, not just remembered in your history. Some people bond deeply with the older versions of us, the more agreeable, self-doubting, accommodating selves who didn't yet know how to say no, how to draw a line, or how to stand firmly in our truth. And while that connection may have once felt like love, what it often was comfort, familiarity, safety, and sameness. But life doesn't stand still. We change. We heal. We begin to notice what we used to ignore. We stop laughing off things that hurt. We start asking different questions. We become more honest with ourselves and with others. And in that shift, the air between us and certain people begins to change. Suddenly, the conversations don't flow like they used to. The silences feel heavier. The laughter feels forced. What once felt like a deep connection starts to feel like performance. Because they're not relating to who you are, and now they're still clinging to who you were then. And the moment you start owning your worth, protecting your peace, or calling out dynamics that drain you, the mask slips, the illusion fades. And you begin to see it for what it is. They weren't really walking beside you. They were walking with the version of you who made them feel more in control, more needed, or less alone in their own stagnation. This isn't always betrayal. Often, it's simply incompatibility, a natural divergence of paths. You grow. They don't, or they evolve in a way that no longer complements your values, your boundaries, your pace. And that realization, however painful, is freeing. Not all friendships are meant to last forever. Some are chapters, not the whole story. Some walk with us through confusion, heartbreak, self-discovery, and when their purpose is served, the paths gently split, and it doesn't mean what you shared wasn't real. It just means it's complete. Friendship, like love, is not sustained by nostalgia alone. It requires mutual growth, mutual respect, the ability to hold space for each other's becoming, even when that becoming looks unfamiliar. True friendship doesn't resist your transformation and embraces it. Yes, letting go can feel like grief, especially when you've attached so much of your identity to the longevity of the connection, but time is not always a measure of closeness. And staying out of guilt or history can sometimes keep both people stuck in an outdated version of themselves. The hardest part isn't always the goodbye. It's accepting that moving on doesn't erase the good. You can honor the laughter, the loyalty, the late night talks, the version of yourself that once needed that friendship, and still recognize that it no longer aligns with who you are becoming. You can carry the love without carrying the weight. Some relationships end loudly with fights, betrayals, or clear closure. Others dissolve quietly with distance, mismatched energy, and the soft ache of growing apart. But both are valid. And both teach you something essential. Who you allow to walk with you now should be someone who respects where you're going, not just where you've been. You deserve to be seen in your wholeness. To be loved not for your compliance, but for your courage. To walk beside people who choose you over and over as you evolve, not in spite of your growth, but because of it. Keep walking. Learning to release without bitterness. The more you grow, the more you'll come to understand one of life's most bittersweet truths. Not everyone is meant to walk every part of your journey with you. And that realization doesn't come easily. It arrives slowly, gently, even painfully. One day, you're laughing with someone you've known for years, and the next, you're sitting in the silence between you, realizing you don't quite understand each other anymore. The rhythm is off. The connection, once effortless, now requires translation. As you grow, your inner world shifts. Your priorities change. Your values deepen. You begin to crave more than just proximity. You want purpose, presence, depth. You want conversations that feed your spirit, not drain it. Friendships that hold space for your complexities, not ones that keep you stuck in old versions of yourself. You'll find yourself withdrawing from dynamics that once felt familiar but now feel hollow. You'll outgrow the constant rehashing of old gossip, the passive-aggressive comments disguised as humor, the subtle resentment when you start to evolve. You'll begin to notice who truly listens and who merely waits for their turn to speak, and none of this makes you ungrateful, or arrogant, or cold. It makes you aware. It makes you aligned. You'll realize that loving someone doesn't always mean keeping them close. You can love them for what they were to you without forcing them to fit into who you are now. You can wish them well, honor the memories, and still choose distance as a form of self-respect. Sometimes the most mature thing you can do is walk away, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in peace. You let the sadness come. You sit with it. You honor the loss, even if it didn't come with closure. Because there's something deeply human in mourning the slow fading of something that once meant everything. And then you accept. You accept that it's okay to outgrow people. That growth isn't betrayal, it's transformation. That healing will sometimes mean walking alone before finding those who are ready to meet you where you are. You open space. You leave room for the new friendships, new conversations, new connections that feel like breath, not weight. People who don't just remember who you were, but respect who you're becoming. People who reflect back your light, not dim it. People who make room for your expansion, not question your evolution. And most importantly, you keep growing. You keep choosing yourself, even if it's lonely at first. You keep showing up for the life you're building, not the one you've outgrown. You stop shrinking to fit back into places that your soul has outgrown. Because the ones who are truly meant to be part of your now life won't require you to dilute your joy, compromise your truth, or question your worth in order to keep them. They'll walk with you, not out of habit, but out of choice. Not because of history, but because of alignment. Not because you used to fit, but because you still do in the ways that now matter most. So don't be afraid to let go. And don't be afraid to begin again. Every ending that's rooted in authenticity opens the door to something more honest, more real, more you, and you deserve nothing less. Final thought, 10 years sounds like a long time. A decade of birthdays, milestones, inside jokes, shared secrets, and growing pains. On paper, it looks unshakable like a bond forged in stone. And because of that number, we often convince ourselves that something lasting must also be something meaningful. But here's the truth, longevity doesn't always equal depth. Some people are simply good at staying. They're good at maintaining the rhythm of check-ins, showing up at group gatherings, remembering your pet's name, or reacting to your Instagram stories. But presence isn't always connected. And sticking around isn't the same as showing up. You can spend years next to someone and still feel unseen. You can celebrate birthdays together and still feel emotionally alone. You can have 1,000 conversations and never once feel truly understood. That's why time, while powerful, is not the only metric of a meaningful friendship. Don't let the length of a relationship blind you to the quality of it. Instead, ask yourself the harder questions. When you were hurting, did they notice? When you had something to celebrate, did they genuinely cheer you on or quietly resent your joy? When you began to grow, did they make room for your expansion or subtly try to pull you back into comfort zones you've outgrown? Do you feel lighter or heavier after spending time with them? The answers to those questions matter more than the date you met. So don't measure the worth of a friendship solely by its duration. Measure it by how safe, seen, supported, and respected you felt in their presence. Because sometimes the people who've known you the longest still know you the least. And sometimes you meet someone new who sees the real you more clearly than those who've been around for years. And if, when you look closely, the truth is that you felt more tolerated than celebrated, more drained than uplifted, then it's okay to admit that you've outgrown that dynamic. That's not betrayal. That's evolution. Outgrowing someone doesn't mean you no longer care. It doesn't mean the memories don't matter. It simply means you're honoring the version of you that's emerging, the one who no longer finds comfort in shallow waters, the one who values emotional honesty over shared history, the one who understands that closeness without presence is not enough. Because the version of you that you're becoming stronger, wiser, more self-aware deserves friendships rooted in mutual growth, respect, and emotional availability. You deserve to be surrounded by people who are not just historically relevant, but presently invested. People who show up not just when it's easy, but when it matters. And walking away from what no longer serves you isn't selfish, it's sacred. It's how you make room for what can serve you now. For the connections that pour into you, challenge you in healthy ways, and stand beside you, not because of how long you've known each other, but because of how deeply you understand one another now. So yes, 10 years is a long time, but it's okay to let go of what no longer fits. because this next chapter of your life, it requires presence, not just proximity. And you're allowed to choose that fully, unapologetically, and without guilt. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.